Klaus. Take it away.
Great. We're on. We're all good. Great. Thanks, Kevin. So I just want to say on behalf of Tina and I, thank you to Kevin and thank you to the members of the club. One, for welcoming us to the club not that long ago. But I just want to do a special shout out to my amazing wife that if we hadn't met, I would not have had a chance to fulfill my childhood dream of sailing the world. So I always wanted to sail the world since I was in kindergarten at school and all that, and never had a chance until we met and got together. And that became, that became our 8-year plan to, when we met, to then take off and sail the world, which is what I've always wanted to do. We're partway through that journey. We're here in San Francisco. We're loving it, and this is our new home. And I just want to do a special shout out. You've prepared this entire presentation, so I'm looking forward to reliving my memories through this presentation as well. Over to you, babe.
Oh, thanks, babe. So I just want to make sure everyone can see, even with reflection, because there's a lot of detail and stuff. But anyway, thank you again. So we started a journey, and we come from Sydney, Australia, and we flew to Paris and drove to the West Coast and picked up our boat, and that's where our journey began, and that was in 2016. So you can see lots of yellow there of us doing a lot of things, basically over 24,000 nautical miles worth. But we are just going to try and cover just, maybe half of the med tonight. We'll see. I don't want to put everyone to sleep, and I just want to move quickly through, but there is a lot of information, and I think, well, our hope was that it's interesting for everyone and, inspiring, because it doesn't matter what adventure you're on in life. It could be going up to the Delta, it can be going, for a hike or whatever it is, big or small. It's just so incredible to be able to get out there and experience different cultures and food and scenery and people. And so, yeah, anyway, we begin. So anyway, yes,
those are disclosures for legal reasons.
Well, actually, that was signage on our. We've done this beautiful, artwork with all the ports. Anyway, that was all the ports we visited. So I just thought we'd start by meeting the family. So Russell and I were married before, and so we brought children into this relationship. Yeah. Yes. So Russell has 2 girls, Ellie and Brittany. Brittany is 26 years old now and married in Germany, and Ellie is in Australia. And Tim, you may have seen him around or may not. He is turning 18 in a few days' time. And together in this marriage, we had little Hugo, and Hugo was very sick. He got diagnosed with a really rare terminal illness when he was 1. And he made it for 4 years, or till his 5th birthday on this earth, and then he went to heaven. So he's not with us, but we've gained an extra son since then, because our daughter got married to beautiful Simeon. And we've also gained a little Lucy, who you may have seen, our little furry friend. So Russ touched on it, but when we met, we were pretty raw and real, and we both had dreams in our heart to sail around the world. And it took us only a month to discover we had the same dream. And so we came up with a plan. It was fondly named the 8-year plan, or 8YP. And we were going to take off. We're going to sail around the world. We're going to homeschool whatever kids we had together and our current children, and do humanitarian things. That was just the rough, broad brushstroke of what we wanted to do. Everyone says that they ask, what boat did you have before Hugo? And we were the proud owners of an Optimist and a Laser.
That's all we had.
Yeah. So we were really good with other people's boats. This is my parents' boat. So if you ever want to save money, do other people's boats, not your own. So we did that for years, but we always had a dream, and very quickly and early on. So our background is monohull sailing and racing. So very early on, we just decided that it was going to be a catamaran for a multitude of reasons. So we spent the first 8 years, well, it took us 10 years to get on the boat. So it took a long time of research, of investment. We would flip houses. We did all sorts of things to get towards our goal very quickly. Hugo put a little pause on a few things. I'd stopped working for a while. But when he went, we went to a boat show and we came across the Naughty Tech brand. In fact, we were looking at 3 different brands, but we came to this one. We'd approach a company and we'd say, hey, you know, I'm an interior architect and my husband's got all these great, you know, Excel spreadsheet of ideas for your boat. Can we change it all? Will you accept this plan and all these changes? And mostly said no. And then we came down to 3 contenders that said yes. And Naughty Tech was one of them. And so we ended up going with Naughty Tech. We signed with them right when Bavaria was buying them out. So they had the engine of Bavaria to be able to do the customization that we needed. So it's a production catamaran, but with all of Tina's wonderful changes and Russell's changes. We had a 236 item Excel spreadsheet of rigging changes and all sorts of things. And they changed most things.
Well, of course, the French said yes to everything.
Yeah.
And then we found out yes doesn't mean yes.
No.
I understand.
No. So we had a lot of fun just going to the west coast of France and sort of discussing the ideas with the team. They were incredible with us. They were really helpful. And meanwhile, back at home, we decided to do everything at once. We thought we'd renovate our house by ourselves, doing all the things, like from jackhammering to you name it. So that's our world. We were doing that. You were working full time. I was the designer, the labourer.
The labour, the builders, yep.
And all sorts of things going on there. And then in between that, we threw in French classes, safety sea survival classes, marine first aid, and diesel engine maintenance classes. So yeah, all the things.
Quick segue. So if you wonder what it's like, you know, and you think about like what's it going to be like if you have to abandon ship, you know, and outside and jump in a life raft. So that's Sunday morning in a pool. We've all had a sleep. We've all had fresh coffee, and that was hard. Right? You never want to be doing that for real. So trust me, you never really want to be in that situation. So there's one tip we can give you, right? Never put yourself in those situations. So one of the other people that was doing that with us, we couldn't pull him up into the life raft. 2 adults could not pull that person into the life raft. And that's in a pool with the instructors telling you what to do. Because you're all wet, you're wearing all your gear, you're wearing everything. It's obviously adrenaline will kick in if you're in that situation, but it was a real eye-opener that you never really want to be in that situation. So yeah, try to do everything possible to ever avoid that need. Obviously, if you need to, it's there, you know, but
yeah,
that was scary just in a pool doing that.
I think, you know, our motto has always been prepare for everything, prepare for the worst. You know, you've got to go, they teach you to go there in your head. But, you know, we tried to do all the things, but I think what this says is you never, ever that organised. We were literally painting the front door of our house as we left for the airport. So you're never that. So this is the first time stepping on board Hugo. Russ still had to work, so I took my dad with me, and that was incredible. That was really fun. It just felt so big and so crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. And the team was so sweet, and I so desperately wanted to use my new French on them, and it was just not happening, man. It was really bad. And so 30th of March 2016, we finally packed up our children's suitcases and we headed to the airport. And this was our life: 9 suitcases, 2 surfboards, and a couple of kids. So we took a flight over and we piled into a rental car at the airport and squished everyone in and drove for 5.5 hours to the West Coast. We slept for an hour and a half and then we were off to the factory to see, guess what? Hugo going in the water. So yeah, everything was like, oh. Yeah, definitely.
Where did the name Hugo come from?
Sweet little Hugo that went to heaven. Our
our
second daughter. She named the boat Hugo. She said he was always meant to go with us. So,
Cool.
Love
So
it.
he's still with us.
so this is hilarious, not so, but it's blowing. It's like almost freezing. It's disgusting whether they completely lose control of our boat. They actually damaged it because it did touch the ground, which explains why we have to go for a quick haul out after that. But anyway, nothing like watching your boat doing that. You just,
Wow.
crazy French. And then
Rochelle, right?
this was in Rochefort. So now we're on a journey from Rochefort to La Rochelle. And so La Rochelle is where they do all the commissioning. And that process sort of took maybe 2-3 weeks after they'd managed to put it in the water eventually. So La Rochelle is delightful. It is very nutrient rich waters, so very sort of quite similar colour to around here actually. And the seafood is to die for, and the scenery is incredible. And so we rented an Airbnb and set ourselves up. You know, Tim was getting homeschooled at the time, and we had to start from scratch. So when I say start from scratch, we only took 9 suitcases away with us. So we had a whole house to fit out, and we had a whole lot of stuff going on at the factory as well. But this is fascinating. This is their little harbour. So this is the harbour that Hugo ended up in. It had over 5,000 sailing boats. No motorboats, just sailing boats. They are mad sailors. And then this is the little inner harbour of the old city, which, you know, we think we've got dramatic tides. Look at that. That's just hilarious. So it was just a beautiful place to be. That's Hugo's first haul out to fix the damage after they pumped it in the water. Yep. So that's just using the tides. And this was our crazy world. Basically, it was as crazy as that. We're getting sails made in New Zealand. We've got, you know, trying to buy all the boat parts, trying to go to, you know, hardware. We're doing all the bedding, all the things, and trying to homeschool Tim. And yeah, it was as insane as when we left.
I had this great idea. It'd be good to buy everything brand new in France because it'd be cheaper. It wasn't. And it was all
No, definitely no. It would have been way better to import. So sadly, the nearest IKEA was in Bordeaux. So
Very
we
sad.
had to go there all the time to get IKEA stuff. So that was really beautiful. We had incredible fresh seafood I talked about, but yeah, the scenery is just gorgeous. Really
close to
sweet.
Bordeaux, obviously Saint-Emilion and some beautiful wine regions. So we just had to do a side trip there all the time.
Yeah. Moving day, very exciting, super exciting. Now, it took me probably, 5 months to actually call it our boat. It was so weird to move on to a dream that you've been dreaming for 10 years, 10 years of just imagining and visualizing. And honestly, I wake up every day just going, what on earth? And we celebrated the team. We'd grown very fond of the Naughty Tech team. And we had many, many beers, but this was the celebration. But their work was not over yet. You know, we weren't that experienced with new boats, but there was a lot more things that needed to happen. Basically, we got 3 test sails done in that time. So we take the boat out 3 times before our big departure on the Bay of Biscay. And that was really, really fun to explore, you know. We actually hadn't done that much catamaran sailing. I'd never been on the ocean on one. And you'd done one delivery after we paid for the boat. Yeah. So anyway, we had 0 experience with catamarans. So it was good to learn how to sail a catamaran. And our crazy world continued because you can't take off from the dock. So you've got all the safety going to the ocean. So you've got all the manuals. You've got to make sure that they're in English, not French. You've got all the things, packing everything away. I'm very proud of this space. This is my underfloor storage. It's very nice. There's some very nice storage areas.
The gym is in there, so that's good.
Yeah, I know, really important. Yeah, it's just quick access. We had 2 of Russell's college friends, 2 engineers that he's known since he was 19. arrived from Sydney. They were going to help us with the initial delivery down and into the Med. What they didn't know was that they got to spend an extra 2 weeks in La Rochelle doing all this.
And
Buying boat parts, checking where the windows that came and went, and then we'd buy more boat parts. We were waiting on the Naughty Tech team to do things, and anyway, it was a very slow process.
we naively thought if you buy a new boat, it should be ready to go straight away. And there was this couple that had bought another new boat on the dock opposite us, and they bought it, 50 foot. And we said to them, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Well, this is our second brand new boat, so we're staying here for 2 months to commission it." And we laughed at them. And they said, "What are you doing?" And we said, "Well, this is our first brand new boat, and we're leaving tomorrow." And they laughed at us. We don't know why.
100% correct. This is the day before we leave. That's our cockpit. That's the Naughty Tech team doing stuff till 10:30 the night before. All of our other stuff is in the car. We hadn't moved in. Russell's up the mast doing rigging checks. We're trying to do all the safety stuff around all of that. So yes, our world was pretty crazy back then. And this is the day that we left. We could never have orchestrated the day or the timing, sorry. We had wanted to leave at least 2.5 weeks earlier. And as I was casting off the lines, my friend Graham went over and he said, "Do you know what day it is today?" And I said, "No." He said, "The 1st of May. And I went, "Oh my goodness." So the 1st of May, 2 years previous to that, Hugo had taken his last breath on this earth.
Wow.
And so we began our journey on the 1st of May, 2 years later, on a boat called Hugo. And so this is the Mediterranean part of our journey. And I don't know how far we'll get tonight, but we made it all the way to Turkey and got to see some incredible parts, and then out into the Atlantic Ocean.
So we caught our time in the
Can you see
the
all
kind of speed dating version of the Med, because lots of other people will go and spend 3 years in the Med and do 3 summers there. And we've kind of gone all the way across and all the way back in one season. One summer.
Months.
Yeah, but it was great to see it. Great to see that.
Yeah. So this is our big sail across the bay. It was super exciting to head out that way. Bay of Biscay is known as, is it a graveyard of sailors? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is us clearly not in wild oceans. We've got our big spinnaker up, and we had just absolutely delightful sailing. So I called it sailing heaven and fishing heaven. My son is just a mad fisherman, and the boys just got to experiment with every single sail, up and down, up and down. It was just fantastic.
We were looking for a weather window to cross the bay, because the bay is one of those notorious places for anybody that's done around the world racing and all the French, and it's crazy. So we were waiting for this weather window, and it was almost calm for the first part of the journey.
Yeah. So calm, it was a dead calm. Look at that. Absolutely no wind.
That was day 2.
So this is us entertaining our son with homeschool and games. And then we rounded the corner where the Northern Atlantic meets Bay of Biscay. Things changed a bit. Just a bit. Yep. So then Tim discovered he had to throw up once a day at sea. Poor guy. That became his morning spot. Out by the helm, but one very happy captain explained the feeling of taking Hugo, surfing Hugo for the first time.
Well, yeah, it was interesting. So because we hadn't been on a cat, we had no real experience, but went around Cape Finisterre, and the minute we did it, we're in the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and it's just this massive, it's like Cape Hatteras or somewhere in the US, or Point Conception. And it's just known as a really rough area. And it sure was. And so we had big seas, probably 4 or 5 metre seas, 30 odd knots. And because I've got my 2 best mates from sailing, we're going, let's go for it. Let's push the boat really hard. And we're so you're sailing your home, surfing down waves and everything. And it's like, this was just, it was very weird feeling, but it was great feeling.
We had an unscheduled stop I didn't tell you who else was on board. Jason, our boat broker from Australia, decided at the last minute he'd come for the sail, but then he had to get off. And so we dropped him at Portugal, He was sick the whole way down, so
He's
I
spending-
think he had to go and work quickly. So
He spent the entire trip on the cockpit floor.
Yeah.
Just like,
he was really ill. Anyway, so that was just kind of strange because we hadn't done anything like that before in a foreign country, just dropping someone off quickly at 7 a.m. and leaving. But anyway, we did it. I don't know how legal or anything.
well, we never got passport stamps for Portugal
Yeah.
for some reason.
So then we arrived in Gibraltar 6 days later, and I just thought it was hilarious the difference between departing France and the customs procedure there. We had 11 very serious uniformed policemen with guns and all sorts of things going on. Paperwork like you wouldn't believe, translator, very serious, and a whole lot of stuff to do with because we left without paying the tax because the boat's Australian registered. So we had so much to go through. We get here to clear into Gibraltar, and there's this guy who looks like he's been there for 100 years sitting behind that desk, and he's sort of, what's your name? And I'm like, oh no, here we go. Can I help? And he's like, yeah, that's it. But I was severely land sick. I had to get back on the boat. It was really crazy. But that was really fun. We only had we dropped off Mark there. So we lost another one of our crew there. Where the marina was right opposite the runway. Really handy if you're dropping off crew. And Russ did his first go of parking a boat in a proper pen. Yeah, which was amazing. We only took one chunk out of the side that time. No worries. But that was the first time because before that it had been side ties. So yeah, anyway. We quickly took the cable car up to the rock to see the rock and got mauled by monkeys and back down again to head out to Ibiza. So we only stayed during the day, and then we did our 3-day sail across to Ibiza where we were going to pick up our next. So what I didn't describe was when we were designing, part of our plan was that we always love to take people on our journey with us, which is why we've agreed to do this talk. We love to bring people physically on our journey with us. So we ripped out bathrooms, put in bedrooms on our boat. So we sleep 11 people. And seriously, the whole way through the Mediterranean, we had people coming in and out all the time. So a lot of our trip was obviously, number one is weather. We will never stick our nose out. Well, we have done a couple of times, but we try not to stick our nose out into the ocean without the weather being okay. You know, we're not going to go by a calendar or by picking up someone. We have to, number one, weather, and then we have to somehow go and get those people. But in the Mediterranean, it was really easy because you could say, just fly into Athens and we'll let you know which island we're at and you can catch a ferry. So it just became, you were really good at organising all the different people wanting to come. But Brittany, our eldest, she had been there with us in La Rochelle, and then she came back to be with us in Ibiza. So we had to get over for her birthday. So we headed over there, which is in the Balearic Islands. Who here's been to the Balearic Islands? Wayne? And we had a beautiful trip over. We had, our spinnaker up and a double rainbow. Doesn't get better, right? It's just gorgeous. Great to see Brit and bit of the old town. And
beautiful old town.
Yeah, it's really sweet. And we had our first, what do you call it?
Mid-morning.
When you reverse into the marina and you pick up one of those.
You pick up the lines that are in the water, and so you've got lines off the bow to a mooring or a very fly, and you tie it back to the dock.
Yeah.
Yeah, med-time.
Med-time. Okay, well that was our first, and the dock was like this, and it went like this during the night because the ferries were constant back to the mainland. And they come in and our boat's stable, but the dock and all the other boats weren't. And so if you had too many drinks getting back to the dock, back to the boat, some people would never make it. They'd fall off because literally it was like riding a roller coaster on this dock. Hilarious. Medtai, okay. Anyway, that's the old city. Ibiza is beautiful, really beautiful. I had a bit of a bad rap going in my head. I was thinking it was party city, but you know, there's actually, we ended up doing a circumnavigation later on. A circumnavigation, yeah, is that right?
Yep.
We went round it
Around the island. Yep.
I
later
was
on.
gonna ask, was that your 12-year-old's request to go to Ibiza?
No, we both had this, yeah.
We got that perception of Ibiza as the party island.
Exactly,
nothing else.
yeah.
And it is on one level, there's all those nightclubs, but the old town is gorgeous. It's so old, there's so much history.
Yeah.
And there's coves all around it. So we then went back at the end of the trip through the Med and stayed in all the coves around. It's absolutely gorgeous.
It's really
So
ideal.
if you're away from the main
Yeah.
part, it's beautiful.
You don't have to travel too far to escape bad weather, whichever way the wind's blowing, because it's superb. Yes, we had leaks on the way down. So we didn't realise that Graham was actually swimming in his bed. So the helm station had leaked in underneath his bed. So that was a delightful find. And we had a sail drive leak. We didn't realise we had that. So we had to do some more organising to get the team back.
Because they don't tell you that something like 1 in 10 sail drives, and we've got 2 of them, so therefore, you know,
1 in 5.
1
will leak after they've been put in the water, and you know it's just normal. You might have to lift it and have it
Part of the
resealed
marketing
again.
thing.
Yeah.
Guarantees
It's part of the
1 in 5
marketing.
times.
Yeah.
So we called the team and we were busy organising meeting up with them, and so the team from Naughty Tech will fly in, and generally they like certain places, and Palma, Mallorca is one. So we went over there. We had a bit of a wild sail over. I wanted everyone to meet our very important crew member, Rowan, as in Mr. Bean. He's really important.
Yes.
It's very, very important on every ship.
What do you mean about Ron?
Yeah. So really wild seas in the Med. That's all I have to say. I had this picture of quite calm stuff, but
So
you know, it's
they say the Med is either too much wind or not enough,
yeah.
and it was like that. So you're either motoring a lot
Yeah.
or you're in conditions like that. And there's obviously a little bit of nice sailing, but that's what they say about the Med. So,
Yeah. So guest changeover day, we said a sad farewell to Graham, who had helped us get the boat down into the Med. And Brittany's best friend Nina, who's German, came and joined us, and we got to have our first swim in the Med. It was freezing. It was only May.
Yeah, early May.
Yeah, so it was freezing, but still we managed to get a swim in. And so with all the work that we had to organise, they wanted us at various different marinas, and you could only, because it was busy, it's the busiest season to get work done because all the boats are getting work done before summer properly starts. And so they'd move us from marina to marina, and then they're like, oh, we don't have a marina for another few days. And so, you know what, our initial plan, like something that we always knew would happen, but it happened quite dramatically, was that our next guests were actually my parents, and we were going to meet them in Venice, and that was not going to happen with all this stuff going on. So we're just like, you okay to like stand by on that thought? Like we actually don't know where we're going to be able to pick you up from. Anyway, but what it gave us the opportunity to start exploring Mallorca and fall in love with it and decide that's where we want to retire because it is divine. Again, the island's big enough to explore geographically. It's got a bit of everything, but also it has that amazing sailing ability to get out of any direction wind. It's just beautiful. And so this is a UNESCO World Heritage Island. Oh no, this isn't. This is an archipelago. This is National Park. And we picked up our first mooring. We were very proud because it's really hard on a catamaran to pick up a mooring. Bit easier on a monohull, but it's never easy, is it? But anyway, we found it really hard, but we did it, so we're quite proud of ourselves. And whenever we get to a new place, the first thing we do is climb the highest hill or highest mountain and look down and get a good perspective. And our son's always the one that wants to hop in the water the first. So he discovered Hamilton, which is our dinghy. So he's our, we call him our crew, and we call him Mr. Hamilton. So, you know, we call him up from shore, he'd drop us off and pick us up, and he'd always put a smile on his face, making us look very grown up. We also discovered here jellyfish. So the Med has the most incredible clear water. It is the craziest blues, just so clear. Not a lot of fish life, but there are these pink jellyfish. But it's so clear that you can actually swim with them and you can see them. So, you know, unless they're like very intensely grouped together. This, I just thought I'd show you our logbook. So ever since we had our honeymoon sailing, I don't like staying in the lines and I don't like grids and stuff like that. So this is how we do logbooks.
Wow.
And all of our guests just, you know, the kids colour in and we just have a whole lot of fun with it. Yeah, it's just really fun. That's my mum drawing a jellyfish that's done.
Nasty jellyfish.
But it's just it's like a journal, and it has all the necessary legal documentation of a logbook. But yeah, that's what we do. And this is us just having a really lazy sail back from that beautiful area south of Mallorca, that we got called up by a warship for the first time, a Spanish warship, and it was like, oh my goodness. And so we had to jibe, and head towards land. And his father happened to be watching marine traffic at that time and suddenly saw us take a 90-degree turn and was really worried. He's like, what's going on? And we thought, isn't that cute? That's so nice. So this was number 3 of the marinas that we went to. So we got to experience a super yacht marina. Basically, there's no tides in the Med, or very minimal. And so it had a hard concrete wharf, but it was so high that we actually, if you can see Nina there, Russell used to have to push us up our to get up there, and Hugo just felt so tiny in amongst these giant boats.
So the next smallest boat was a 95-footer on the right-hand side. And it just went up from there.
So we got to watch sort of super yacht life, I guess. You know, you'd see all the florist trucks arrive and all the, you know, just the incredible, like it was actually quite incredible to watch. And there were lots of people going up and down trying to, you know, become crew on these boats. And Ross was like, I don't know, keep passing them by, you know. So they keep, you know, he's looking up, they keep passing me by.
Why don't those young girls that looking for a boat stop by us?
Yeah. So Brittany and I dressed in uniform, or what we could come up with as a uniform, and pretended that I was chef and she was chief stew, and you know, we did the shopping trolley, and we tried to look like we were your crew. And that's Russ prophetically putting all of our wet weather gear away. All the wet weather and safety gear, thinking it's going to be calm sailing from now on. And this is yet another round of getting things fixed. This is hilarious. So this is one of the things that happened in the build. They drilled through a drain, and that was one of the bedroom leaks. So these things happen. But hilarious, but great people that we were meeting. The guys working on our project were just always, the teams coming through was so fun. So, you know, we'd have fun in the midst of all the chaos that kept happening.
Fun too. They got out of the office.
They did.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's Russ having a whole lot of fun in dirty marina water, checking just to make sure that we need to get hauled out for this sail drive. But sadly, yes. Another pause between being able to get hauled out of the water, so we got a chance. So it's down to just Brittany, Tim, and Russ and I on board. So this is the first time we've been as a family in calmness for a while, and this was just a really special time of our lives to go and experience a bit of Majorca, go up the coastline. I call this a James Bond house. Isn't that cool? Built into the cliffside. Just the cliffs, the sheer majesty of the mountains meeting this beautiful blue water. I mean, it really is an incredible sight to behold. Happy family times. Tina in a happy place. I'm trying to master the art of bread making. Britty's doing a logbook and Tim's doing fishing and playing games. It's just a really happy family time. And exploring, love exploring all the different parts, all the old cities, trying to figure out rules when you come in, you know, if you're okay to anchor places and where to take your dinghy, and always fun. This is stunning. This is a UNESCO World Heritage listed area.
So Majorca is just, it's such a varied island. It's got mountains, so the teams for the Tour de France train there because it's, you know, got some great roads, beautiful UNESCO areas and beaches and resorts. It's quite an amazing island.
Yeah. And then we came back to Palma in Majorca to the super yacht haul out boat yard there called STP. And we literally were dwarfed by the giants around us. I mean, look at that travel lift. And that was
the small one.
That was the small one. It was huge. Anyway, Tim was
to get the sail drive fixed.
Oh, okay.
So they had to fix that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So Tim's other pastime other than fishing became clicking on the AIS of all these boats. Figuring out, Dad, this one's like 140. Anyway, so that's us out of the water, but that was our view outside of our window. Like, look at the size of these things. They're huge. Absolutely massive. And this is these are the Jeans showing up. Jean-Christophe, Jean-Mathieu, and Jean-Yves for 18. So we figured out a plan for the next few months of where to meet up because the list was a bit too long just to get done in that week. And so we had a few more stops of meeting up with the Jeans. And we took ourselves off in that time and explored some more on the land, which is really fun. And I thought I'd throw in a photo of me shopping. So we didn't really have carts or anything back then, those ones that we have here. So I had this thing and drag it behind me everywhere. And that was how I provisioned.
And no IKEA.
And so this marks the first month of us being on board Hugo. And we head off to pick up my parents, not in Venice, but in Cagliari in Sardinia. So we'd use these ocean travels to learn the language of where we're going. Well, not fully, obviously, just some basics to be able to get by. And that was really fun. And then we do our flag changing ceremony each time. But it's another beautiful coastline. And so we went from Super Yacht Marina to this. So this was a marina that we picked my parents up in, and they had a med tie, but with the skankiest, most disgusting lines in the world. Like, they were so revolting. We soon learnt how to deal with these med ties, and we had these fabric panels made up to protect. But there's a restaurant there that we went to. It's on the Lean. I mean, everything was just, and this is me clearing customs and immigration. It's awesome. Oh, that's yes. Oh, yeah. Thanks for that. And then my parents arrived. Always wonderful. Have those mum chats. It was really, really fun. And so we did some quite big sailing with them. So my dad used to race every Saturday growing up, and my parents have a boat, and they really enjoy that life. And so they're not huge ocean sailors or anything, but they were quite willing to do whatever. You know, they were very trusting with us, which was sweet. So we got to explore a bit of these beautiful places. So we didn't stay long in Sardinia. We thought we'd head off to Sicily and the top part of Sicily. Russell's the cruise director on our boat. We call him the cruise director. He's the one that does all the research of places. So you got all these books constantly in these books, constantly in these books, and you know, did such an amazing job in our journeys. So we're just like, oh yeah, where are we going? Which is great. And Mum and Dad got to wash off their air miles in that beautiful water. It doesn't look like a pool. It's incredible. And so this is us sort of doing our, what was it, 3-day journey across?
Sicily to Sardinia.
Yeah. So lots of good chats, good food, school, and I had a great watch partner, my mum, which is really nice. And so this is us just experiencing a bit of life in Sicily. So we do a food shop wherever we could and get some unusual produce, whatever that thing is, but that was some sort of squash, don't know. Yeah, we try to eat some of the local produce, and we had a lot of fun cooking. We'd eat most meals on our boat, and occasionally we'd have a restaurant. We had a tight budget to get us through our 15 months on board, Hugo. So we did a lot of cooking, and I don't mind cooking, obviously, and my kitchen on board is incredible. So doesn't Sicily have the ugliest flag? Like, that is just weird.
Yeah.
So weird. So I think you could spend a whole year on Sicily, but we of course did it in about 3 days. But we skirted along the top part, and then we went off to the Lipari Islands, which is really nice. You can see Stromboli in the distance there. This is a beautiful little town across that top part of Sicily, Capo Cepolu. And we left Mum and Dad on board. We gave them a date night. I cooked them a meal and left them on board. And Britt and Russ and I went wine tasting in the little town. It was gorgeous, so sweet. Isn't it picturesque?
Beautiful.
Just stunning.
And
The
it's just-
history is incredible.
Yeah, and just like typical, because you see those everywhere, and just anchor in the bays, it's just gorgeous.
Yeah, some are run down. You can
Yeah.
never quite tell from the water. It's interesting arriving at a place from water, not road. And some are really beautiful, and this one was particularly beautiful. We then shot off across the water to the north to the Lipari Islands. So you've got Stromboli and a few others, and Russ picked Volcano, which is an active volcano and had some good anchoring. So it's really hard to anchor in those volcanic islands. I've got it in our logbook that we tried about 5 times and dragged anchor, and it's just really hard to get the right spot. And Mum bought some fish off a local fisherman, and that's just like a dream. It's so nice having little things like that happen. And she also got stung by one of those pink jellyfish. But we have anchor beers whenever we drop anchor, so we call it an anchor beer. And so it's a well-earned anchor beer. Dad's sitting there having fun. And then we walked up the volcano the next day. There were lots of warnings telling you not to go there, but you just have to. It's a life goal. It's super fun. But we walked past that mud puddle here with these old guys sitting in it, and the smell, you can imagine that sulfur. Anyway, we did this huge hike up around the mountain and back down again, and they were still there. They hadn't moved.
We're not getting in that mud.
I don't care how healing volcanic thing is. Ugh. Anyway, that was really fun. And then it was time to go down the Strait of Messina, which is really cool experience between Sicily and the mainland Italy. Just at the top there, we saw lots of sword fishing boats. So I don't know whether you can see that properly, but there's a little guy hanging in a little basket at the top of the mast of a little tiny motorboat.
He's
the spotter.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's in the tuna tower.
He's in the tuna tower, but it's just
Yeah.
like massive up high, and they're everywhere, and swordfish everywhere.
Yes.
Wow.
And when people come on, oh, sorry. when people come on board our boat, we always say to them, you know, don't assume that the captain or whoever's at the helm has seen something. Always point out the obvious. And we say that because as we're entering in this, you know, very busy channel, in the middle of this huge wide channel, up pops a spearfisherman in black. And we're just like, oh my goodness, where'd you come from? There was no boat, there was nothing around, he was just out there. Oops. Okay. So yeah, never be afraid to point out the obvious on a boat. We then went down and anchored off a beautiful town called Taormina, and it is divine. It is definitely super yacht land. We were back with the super yachts again. They kindly put on a free fireworks show for us. But we did some beautiful exploring. We hired a car at that point and got to see a bit of Sicily rather than actually sailing the boat. So this is up in the main town of Taormina. So all the colours are delightful. They really are. You know, the food's delightful. Everything, you know, you just feel completely surrounded by gorgeous Italian, authentic Italian stuff. We drove down to Syracuse, which is a fascinating old fort or old town. We found the swordfish that they caught at the markets, poor swordfish. And then we drove inland to a cute little town up on a mountaintop called Malili. And our daughter, who studies architecture, she had done a pretend building, a renovation in this town. Anyway, it was the brief, and so it was hilarious for her to go to that town of all the towns. Anyway, it was good. Oh, hang on, that was really hilarious. Oh, doesn't matter. It was us driving in a rather small hire car down a street that was smaller than our hire car and having to go on the steps on one side. It's good driving.
Hire cars are built for those, as we all know.
So can't spend too long anywhere. You know, I think that was like 2 nights. So that's probably our record stay, 2 nights somewhere. It was time to take off again, and we decided to head over to the Peloponnese, which is the bottom section of Greece. And it was beautiful. So this is us taking off. It was washing day. Washing takes 5 minutes to dry on that line, 8 minutes for the heavy duty items. And my parents came on board both with balance issues. And so I suggested to them that they start to stand on this trampoline at the front each day and just build up. And by the end of it, they were just walking around this wild rocking boat, you know, on big oceans. And they sailing and boat life, not just sailing, but motorboats too, just any time out there is so good for your core, but it really fixed them. And we attempted to learn Greek. Now that is one hard, that's really hard. That's just, yeah, forget it. And we had no wind. So this was a dream come true, a dip in the middle of a deck calm. I don't know about doing it here. There's way more fish life, or shark life, I should say, here. But yeah, there was 1,000 meters below us and we jumped into the ocean. It was really fun. We did leave someone on board though, wasn't it? And then it went from dead calm to this. And so my son ended up back out at the helm station again, poor darling. But then he had this bright idea, can I like put my life jacket on and clip onto the trampoline and get smashed by waves? And so that distracted him from any form of seasickness. So that became his new extreme sport. And this is us arriving in hot Greece in this beautiful bay. It was so hot. Suddenly everything just became stifling hot. We don't have air conditioning on board. Did you want to add something? Yeah, we didn't put air conditioning on board because we thought, you know, we don't have it back in Australia. Why would you need it? And it takes up room and it's heavy and we want to go fast. No.
And we could afford it.
So we arrived in that,
Near the Delta.
yeah,
With friends, Robert.
with friends with air conditioning. So we arrived in this sweet bay, and we stayed a night. Then we went over to clear customs over in the main town of Pilos, and then went around the bottom. So this was the first stop. We had just a really delightful self-guided tour of these ruins.
It's amazing because you're walking around the ruins that are thousands of years old. There's no signs, no fences. You just read it in the guidebook and you just walk around. It's like, where else can you do that sort of thing? It's just like Greeks,
So
you can do
fun.
anything. And it's just spectacular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More ruins. So this is me clearing customs and immigration in Greek, and I did really well because I was speaking Italian, French, and English to them. So that really helped. Provisioning suddenly went from Italian provisioning to whatever you can get kind of provisioning in Greece. So not great. It's super hot, and getting fresh food was really hit or miss depending on where we were. But sweet Maria, they're all Marias. Maria helped. But it was funny, we pulled into this old town wall to go and clear in, and we had no idea, we're in a foreign country. We pull in and this guy comes up looking very important with a clipboard and trying to charge us money. And we're thinking he's, this is what we have to do. And this beautiful English couple was like, don't go near him, don't talk to him, he's just a fake. In fact, there's lots of fakes, make sure you go to the building, don't ever do it to the person on the walk. So after that, we became very wise to that trick.
Became Greek aware.
Greek
Aware of the
aware.
Greeks and the
But
tricks.
it did happen almost every time we pulled into a seawall.
Always be
sorry,
somebody
town
wanting to
wall.
help you,
Yeah.
not in charge you for it.
So beware Greeks bearing clipboards.
Yes.
Yeah, and also naked
Nice one.
Greeks.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
So everyone says, what do you think about pirates? And we said, well, we did have a pirate experience. Well, not so much pirates, but naked Greek men. We were anchored off a beautiful bay and had a wonderful evening, went to bed, 3 a.m. There was a little fire, a light bonfire happening on the beach and some sounds of a party. It wasn't that loud, but we were quite a distance out. And we heard someone come on behind our bed, up a step there. And it ended up being, Russ stuck his head out the hatch and the guy ran up and jumped off the front. He was naked.
Oh my gosh.
And then Russ went up with a winch handle and turned the lights on. And so did my mum come out. And there's the other guy trapped under the boat with all the lights shining down. And my mum was more fierce than my husband standing there with the winch handle. She was in a white nightie and she's going, go home! Go home now! I was like, going, I am sorry, we are drunk. We do dare. I am really sorry. So that was our first and I'm declaring last boarding. Yeah. So that was at 3 a.m. So we're like, well, what do we do? It was Tim's birthday. We thought, well, let's go to where we were going to go early. So we took off in the moonlight. It was just beautiful. We got to put up this spinnaker, what was meant for, not a nice thing to happen ended up being a really positive thing. We all had a swim before we left it in the moonlight and took off.
You had a mother-in-law. I mean, you're safe, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right, in a white nightie.
Totally safe.
She's great security. And so what we're doing is traveling around those bottom fingers of the Peloponnese, which is just stunning. If we could go back there and spend a year exploring that area, it is incredible. It's not highly tourist compared to, the Greek islands. And it's just a really special part. So we went over, 5-hour sail over for Tim's birthday. This is what we did for Tim's birthday. We found these caves that you do the canoeing through. So that was absolutely fun. But it's 14,700 meters of charted underwater or on-water caves that you can travel through. And so that was really fun, but you had to duck, and I don't know if anyone's ever done that before, and the guy uses a stick and hits the roof of the cave to pull you through.
Oh, wow.
So that was really fun, and it was cool down there. It was really refreshing to feel air conditioning for the first time.
Yeah, can we do another tour, please?
Yeah. And then we went around to the next spot, which was where we had a beautiful birthday dinner, and we called into this, well, it was a bit of a wild, I can't even tell it to you guys. If you guys have been out on the water here, you know, I was going to say that there are some massive downdrafts from the mountains, and, you know, it's pretty crazy there. You can go from nothing to 25 knots. And here, oh my goodness, you only have to sail out our back door. And you get that. So, yeah, it's pretty much San Francisco Bay, except a whole lot warmer. So we did that, pulled into this anchorage, and we took our dinghy to shore, and we had 4 Marias running up to us, trying to get us to their restaurants. So we went to Maria number 1's restaurant, and she was so sweet, and they're just so sweet and generous and loving, and just, you know, just so willing to cook anything and do anything and show you how amazing their food is. So we had a really nice time. I mean, how cool to sit on a pebbly beach. Yeah, just really nice. And yes, we spent a whole night there, so it's time to keep moving, guys. So this place we actually spent 2 nights. It was time to get some maintenance done, and you can understand why. Look at this water. It's like a big swimming pool. It was beautiful. So we managed to get our maintenance done, but we also managed to have our first experience of being a proper cruising family and meet other cruising families. So we spotted an Australian flag on a boat and swam out to them and said hi. And then they invited us to a beach barbecue, and we met some beautiful Canadians and Norwegians.
That's a shocker. No, not compared to the Canadian stuff.
Anyway, it was just beautiful. But we were on one side of the peninsula, and we were the only boat for miles. It's huge, giant beach, and then you had all these other boats on the other side. They obviously knew something that we didn't, but we're like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, okay, no, we'll anchor here. It's beautiful. Anyway, this French boat came up, and he literally almost anchored on top of us. And so Russell's trying all of the nice language.
But we were anchored, and he did a bit more. So he put a 4 anchor down and an 8. So if we swung, we were going to hit him because he wasn't going to swing. So we had to do some international language
exchange.
yeah, to get him to move.
And he wouldn't. And then he did it at about 9 p.m. at night. That's kind of crazy. But anyway, we did have the anchorage to ourselves. So we spent 2 nights there, and then it was time to head over to the Cyclades Islands. So we took off, and it was really beautiful and calm, and we're going along this gorgeous coastline. And then it went from being beautiful and calm to seeing the point coming up and seeing the water ahead. And I said to Russ, you need to shut all the hatches. So he disappeared downstairs. And I'm at the helm. I don't have any safety gear on at this point because we were cruising along in 6 knots of breeze, and you know, it was just like really calm. And suddenly it was like, no, it went from that to about 25 to 30 knots, and ended up being like that the whole way across. So Mum's there in the kitchen doing all the cooking, going, oh, I love catamarans, this is awesome. And we're flying through the water until we reduce sail, but it was just a really wild experience for everyone. And Tim took up his seat at the helm station. He did grow out of it. It was just, we're still only a month and a bit into our trip, so it took him a little while, but his tummy adjusted eventually. And then we went to Milos. It was time to farewell our Brittany and also my parents. So that was a very heavy-hearted, sad day because we just didn't know when we were going to see them again. Anyway, I knew when we'd see Brittany, but not mum and dad. And so then it was time for Russ and Tim and I to make our way all the way to Rhodes, which is near Turkey, to pick up my sister and her family. So we had a, sort of a window to do that, and we stopped at a few islands on the way in the Cyclades, but we got to experience the first. We got to experience Santorini. Who's been to Santorini? Amazing.
Beautiful.
Everywhere.
It looks like snow-capped mountains from a distance, but it's all the houses. It's just beautiful.
So you can't enter in the main harbour of Santorini because it's the volcano itself, and it's like hundreds of meters deep. So the big cruise boats do, but they stay stationary, underwater and gyroscoping. So you've got to anchor off the beach around the southern part, and there's no main marina there for you. It's a gorgeous island.
Yeah, beautiful. We did some sunset exploring, but again, spent one day and then we're off again. We went to this sweet little island. It's got nothing on it. It's just very barren. Every island from here on in we're in the Dodecanese, sorry. Very barren, but just filled with goats. Goats drink seawater. Did you know that?
No.
I did
Yeah,
not know that.
they do. We saw them drinking seawater.
They come down, drink the
Do they have
seawater.
to take blood pressure medication?
I don't know.
I don't
They
know.
eat poison oak, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're very bizarre. It's a very bizarre animal.
It's bizarre.
When you think about it.
But that's a rather tight entry into this tiny little bay. But it was, we felt pretty cool going in there. We were the only big boat. They just had these little guys, and it was just a really peaceful night to escape all those big winds out there. And then another early morning start. Again, our plans had to change because of the Maltini breezes, the winds coming through. There's a lot of radio activity as you get closer to this end of the Med, especially closer to Turkish borders. There was a lot of, this was sort of, we're only, a year out from the mass.
The refugees. So remember the refugee
Crisis.
crisis with all the refugees flooding out of Syria and out of Libya. And so this was the following season. So the previous season, you'd had all of the refugees and all the problems come with that. And so there was a lot of military, a lot of patrol, a lot of people on edge. But the sad part, the refugees and all that, what was really sad was because there was so much negative press, people weren't there. So we go to these bays and we'd be the only yacht there, and all of the restaurants and all the families were suffering so much
So desperate.
because of what had happened on TV. And so all the tourists were staying away and the cruisers were staying away. And so their livelihoods were just really ruined. It was really quite sad.
Yeah. So we had lots of US warship, activity on the radio, which was fascinating.
And so fun fact, so we've got VHF radio, and we all know that VHF radio is only line of sight, so it's 9 miles, 15 miles. So we got caught up by a US warship that was a couple thousand miles away on VHF, which is technically impossible, right? So how he caught us up, obviously bouncing a VHF off satellites or something, but he was tracking us, caught us up. And it was like one of those moments you go, actually, I'm really glad the US, Navy is out there. They're keeping an eye on everything. They knew where we were, who we were, and all that. How they tracked us, but yeah.
Why did they call you?
They just called us to say, we're on patrol. If you see anything suspicious, then call us.
Yeah.
Which was a really dumb thing to say. Because we
Yeah,
couldn't
you're
call
taking
anybody.
care of them now. Right.
Because we're on VHF, so we can't call anybody.
But they could get mother-in-law, right? We want to borrow that.
We want them.
I think it's Olivia. We need.
We
Yeah,
need that.
we need.
Just our secret.
Do you remember which boat it was?
No, we haven't written down, but it was just amazing, like to get caught up and get
Yeah.
tracked
Definitely.
on your VHF. That's it was kind of
Really?
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
had to keep an eye out for refugees in the water, and obviously we would pick them up, but we got told, well, if you pick them up, then you have major issues.
Because then you're
you will not
trafficking.
be accepted
Oh,
into
then you're
Paris.
right.
You'll be stuck with these people and you're like a floating island of not being able to go anywhere with them.
So yeah,
So
when you
maybe
hear
not,
just
yeah.
those stories and real dilemma, and yeah, it was
Yeah.
really sad. You know, because you'll remember that photo of the little boy's body that was washed up on the beach,
Yes,
real bad,
yeah.
just after all the following season.
So this is another sweet anchorage to escape the Maltini winds. Great name for a boat, by the way.
Yeah, if anybody's got a boat name called Maltini, we
Right.
don't want to go sailing with you.
Yeah.
Because there's always
Yeah.
The Caswells have named their
the
boat
castles.
Maltini.
So this was a sweet little town in Nisosimi, and well, it wasn't a town; it was a monastery. What we didn't know, because what we do when we get somewhere is obviously I'll jump in and do an anchor check, but we'll also swim because we're hot. But we didn't realise that it's a monastery and they really don't want you stripping down into
Having not so many clothes on.
or maybe having a nudie swim. So we made it to Rhodes. Rhodes is super close to Turkey, still in Greece, and my sister and her husband Nick and the two littles arrived. So Flynn is 5 years old and Oscar, he just turned 1. And sweet little Oscar learnt to walk on our boat. So that became a real challenge and also a whole lot of fun. So Rhodes was yet another destination where we were meeting up with the Naughty Tech team again. So we had, this time we only had one John and some guys from Bavaria show up and do some work. So Russ stayed on board kindly and I took off and was a tourist with my sister and brother-in-law. And from Rhodes, we decided to explore. We went in and out of Greece, Turkey, and worked our way up, which was really fun. But that's as far east that we went. I know my navigation.
And so that's Turkey on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
And so it's just gorgeous coastline.
So this is our first port in Turkey, which is really fun. The boys got to do the flag changing ceremony and we could all buy Turkish towels, which is really, really fun. And there were more goats, but just really fun to get to know everyone again and swim off the air miles. Then we attempted something really tricky. So you can see where Hugo is. So we went in early in the day and there was enough room for us to come in. What that video is showing, it's not really showing it clearly. It turned into manic hour around 3 o'clock in the afternoon and there were just boats all vying for the same place and just boats narrowly missing. It was just crazy. It's just a small little narrow anchorage, but really fun to try our first
True med
first
mooring.
anchor. Yeah, true mid mooring.
So
Yeah, anchor and
Drop
reversing.
your anchor, reverse in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's great. There's no tide, so you just tie right off to the town dock. And
Yeah.
literally step off the boat.
Yeah, like
Which is great.
absolutely.
That's a true man.
It's a true
Yeah.
med tie. Yeah. Yeah.
So
and
that was a
people's anchors
highlight.
are on top of people's anchors, and it's all ends up in the spaghetti.
Yeah. And so we take off again.
On the trampoline.
On the trampoline, little wants
The
to.
best
So
sounds
Yeah.
ever.
he had a rope and he would literally, all he wanted to do was to go round and round the boat walking because he'd found his sea legs and that was it, he was off. So yeah, we developed a
Did
system.
Tim take lessons?
We developed a system of walking the child
Uh-huh.
around, which is hilarious. Anyway, we did some very large sea miles with these guys. There was a consistent Maltini blowing. It was just wild seas constantly.
Wow.
Just anyway,
The
So-
maternity will come in for like 2 weeks. And so then you'll have a card for 4 or 5 days, and
Yeah.
then you'll get another one for 2 weeks. You get to time everything in between that, which is why we could never really tell people exactly where we'd be, because you had to, plan around the
Dodge,
weather
yeah.
and dodge the weather.
yeah. This is a beautiful anchorage. We counted, I don't know,
We came
Crazy
over
amount.
100 boats
Yeah.
in this little bay, all med tide,
Mm.
and just absolutely beautiful. you know.
So we're certainly learning, Hugo. So this is our first med mooring, but tied with us jumping overboard with ropes and tying off to rocks, which is really
Drop
fun.
the anchor back in,
Yeah.
teeter and swim ashore, tie us off to a boulder or, you know, or a tree or something.
Wow.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yep.
Oh, really?
I hope it looks like that.
Yeah. And that's fresh Turkish bread delivered to the boat, which is really cool. Can you say that? Okay. So this was another crazy sail, and then we found this tiny anchorage, and we're like, we have to get in there. It looks really calm right now, but when we were coming around the corner, it was wild, you know. And you know, we've got salt, and it's just like everyone's over it. And we're like, we have to get in there, and it was full. It was completely full, but there was this spot kind of really close to the shore. I'm like, do you think we can somehow squeeze? So, I mean, that's showing us by ourselves. But if you look at my sketch, there were boats lined up in there. And they were really sweet and helpful. But we managed to get our boat. I don't know how you managed to get the boat in there. But we tied up aft that way. But then we had a line going across the whole bay to the other rock on the front because we couldn't anchor, and we had that much below our keel. So yeah, it was great, but we stayed there for a whole 2 nights. This is exciting.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you climb the highest hill when you go somewhere, but these photos, are you climbing a hill or are you doing it with a drone?
Climbing.
Every climb.
All of these are
Yeah.
you can climb it.
They're all climbing.
Yeah,
This is
Didn't have to drive
pre-drone.
this time, pre-drone, yeah.
Right, it's pre-drone days.
Pre-drone days.
Right,
Yeah,
of course.
it's 5 years ago. Yeah,
2016,
pre-drone, yeah.
hello.
But that just shows us how gorgeous those little
I mean, it's
bays are.
amazing
You know,
photos,
and you can
yeah.
anchor it back.
And also great ambition to do that.
Yeah. And it's just a really sweet, safe place for the little boys. You know, how sweet to
definitely.
just take them for little swings in what looks like a giant swimming pool. So we went from that beautiful, serene place and thought we'd go and visit Bodrum. But I don't know whether you can hear this. I got shot in my bedroom by a laser light repeatedly.
From the nightclubs,
From the
they're all
nightclubs.
around.
So they had all the party boats and all the nightclubs, and it was just like,
Because at daytime,
At
it's
daytime it
beautiful.
looks
This is
fine.
great. We'll anchor here, and this is fine.
yeah. But we found a place to provision, which was super exciting, but it was like a Costco on steroids. So that's me holding a mayonnaise, bucket of mayonnaise.
Much mayonnaise would you like?
Yeah. And that was Russell's holding the shopping list. You know, it was just, we just got so excited to be able to shop real food again. But yeah, my poor nephew, he just stayed up and howled all night. It was just so loud. It's really loud. So we left there. Oh, that's a typical Turkish boat that you find there. Goulet. Am I saying it correctly, Kevin? Goulet.
Say
Goulet. Yeah, they're everywhere. And then we went back to Greece. So this was an interesting anchorage. Again, it's super windy outside, and we tried to anchor. We got yelled at by, we tried to anchor just outside of this cove. We got yelled at by people on shore. We don't know what's going on. And then finally someone was really kind enough to come over and say, hey, there's 2 goulets leaving a prime position in there. You just have to wait for 2 hours. So we just circled outside. It's so nice when someone is actually helpful and says, this is what's going on. So we pull into this random tiny place, but it ended up being perfect because our washing machine had broken, and we had all those people on board, and this little town was dying because of the lack of tourists, because of the refugee crisis and people thinking that it was all dangerous. And so this sweet family, they're like, we'll do anything. We'll do your washing for you for free. Just eat at our restaurant. And we're like, no, we'll pay you. It's fine. So we ended up eating there for 2 dinners and a breakfast. And,
Just to be able to
Just
give
to-
them more money.
you know,
Right.
like,
take my money.
Yeah. But found out a bit of their local history. Like, it was really great. You know, it was probably one of the, one of those opportunities that are gold when you get to meet someone and really get to know them. Sorry, we are going through. Yeah, that's bit of the landscape, so it's very thorny. Whenever you're climbing up anywhere, you get lots of thorns. It's very scratchy, very
Yeah,
harsh,
dry, yeah,
very dry.
the goats.
But what a sweet little place. Lots of mosquitoes. Poor little Oscar. He's absolutely bitten.
Oh, is that what you call them in Australia, mozzies?
Mozzies. Yeah,
That's a great name.
yeah.
It's very appropriate. It is.
So then we did a few more Greek islands, which was really fun. Always struggling to find Wi-Fi. We were typical tourists, and what we do is Russ would go sort of near some bars, and then I'd be looking at the thing. And I'm like, right, we should anchor right about here.
Wi-Fi is that. Wi-Fi is that.
Maybe
Well, then you
we
have to
go-
go ashore, have a drink, get a
Have a
Wi-Fi
beer.
code and come back.
That's clever.
So yeah,
Great.
and then we had to have salt and pepper calamari. It's just what you have to have
Yep.
to do that. So this is Russ being a cruise director. So he was really no worries.
You wore that ass, really?
Yeah.
No.
But this is sort of our routine. Like he'd get up really early, and he'd sort of be studying, and then he'd tell everyone over breakfast what we're doing for the day. But generally, he always left a surprise in there. If we were coming up to something, he'd say, "Oh, we're dropping anchor here," and we wouldn't really know what we're doing. So this was a great surprise. We'll drop anchor. We're going to snorkel over to this wall and just see what happens. And so you could snorkel through this cave and into this sort of enclosed rock. I don't know what you call
And
it.
to swim underneath and up into the hole.
Thing.
You
Yeah.
can see that.
Nice. So that's always nice. And then just fresh produce was a rare thing. We found mushrooms. That was amazing. So mushroom risotto. But goats.
Goats.
More goats.
Goats.
More goats. Goats climbing up that thing on an angle. They were climbing all those lines had goats on them. You can't really see them.
And they probably have no predators, right?
Mm.
So they
Yeah.
just
Yeah, because on the island, there's nothing. They're the biggest thing on the island. Yeah.
like deer here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
sort of.
These islands are getting flatter, not so dramatic. Really sweet. We went over to Patmos. Who knows what Patmos is famous for? Okay, well,
Goats.
Apostle John.
St. John.
Apostle John wrote the book of Revelation there in a cave. So we went to his cave, and that was really fun. We hired a car, squeezed in a tiny car,
But
drove
air
around.
conditioning.
It had air
It was
conditioning.
cool. Yep.
Yeah.
We need to get to that. We have a break.
How many people were in that car?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's like a
I
clown
know.
car.
And so they charged us 18 euros per night to pull up at that dock. So that was the bargain.
Wow.
We were proud of that one.
Yeah.
We've been charged all sorts of things. Then it was time to leave the Dodecanese Islands and head over to Mykonos. And Mykonos was where our next changeover of guests was happening. So Mykonos has incredible coloured water, as you can see. And then I said goodbye to my sister and her family on that ferry. I was up doing washing at a laundromat and could see their ferry leaving. It was very sad. But then my best friend, business partner from Australia, she lives in Switzerland, she arrived. Swiss family Andermatt arrived. So it was 2 kids and them, which was really fun, off for the next part of our journey. So basically,
Like this way, that's a great.
basically we're there in Mykonos and we're thinking, yeah, we're going to explore a bit of Mykonos, it'll be really fun. And then Russell's like, no,
Another volcano.
actually,
Yeah.
this one's bigger than all the others and we're going to be trapped in Mykonos for 2 weeks plus. So you're nodding like, yeah, I know that one. So we're like, oh guys, so we're just going to jump into a wild ocean sailing, like 9-hour days. Is that okay? So they were really good sports. It was just a bit hard for them the first day, but well, sorry, we did go to Delos. I've got that out of order. We did go to the island next to Mykonos, which has ruins. The boys are really impressed with ruins. This is Marcus and Tim. Tim really loves ruins. He gets a lot out of them.
Got another one.
I'll ask him this birthday.
But yeah, this is pretty much what we threw this new family into. Really, really wild seas. Like these were the wildest yet, weren't they? Yeah. They beat the Northern Atlantic. So this is the family all passed out after all feeling a bit ill. Anyway, it's okay. So we had 2 full days of doing these wonderful sails. But we pull into places and we could swim and get off the sea miles. And but we did work out a really good way of doing it. So the first day they all came upstairs. We left them sleeping while we up anchored and headed out. And that's what really made it ill. Yeah. So the next day everyone got up, they had breakfast, they got all their sunscreen and their safety gear on, and then they were more prepared for it. And that really worked. And then we said, listen, you can sleep upstairs because Hugo has that wonderful effect, all boats do, of sending you to sleep.
How much fresh water can you hold on that? So you
About
have that many
2
people on there, you're having to refill.
Yeah, we
quite
Yeah,
frequently,
especially
right?
the Andamans, because they come from Switzerland where water is for free.
Oh.
And Marcus has a 1-hour shower.
Wait, what?
Patrick gets on board and he washes his hands, and he literally washes his hands. He's still going a minute later, and I'm like,
we carry
No.
2 400 litres.
You have water.
We got a water maker,
Yeah.
but you don't want to be running it.
12
I've got to run the
Peggy and
generator.
I on the
Oh,
time.
no.
To run.
yeah.
So it's a large thing. But
We're
you,
gonna finish up soon.
we'll
I
finish
don't wanna run that
1955.
the whole time, hour shower,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
So the
So
Corinth Canal was one of my highlights.
Yeah.
So the Romans started the Corinth Canal like 2,000 years ago. So the history of that and that shortcut, and it's you go through. Sorry, you check in and clear in on one side, and then they let the traffic. So the traffic only goes one way through. We're 28.5 feet wide. We probably had about 6 feet clearance either side of the boat. And it's 6 miles just straight. So
Beautiful.
I didn't really enjoy the ride. I like it. It's like I can't do it. Don't just focus on where I'm going. Yeah. Don't need it.
it's actually, it looks wide, but there's a shelf underneath the water, and it's only deep for certain sections. So Russ had to really stay on track. So for the grand privilege of going through there, what is it? It's 4 miles. We paid €325.
Oh.
But it cuts a couple of days. Well,
It was fun.
a long way unless you go around. So you either go through that or you go around the bottom of the Philippines.
Yeah. That was really fun. So we went straight through there. So that was a big day. It was an 11.5-hour day. There's big daylight hours at that time of year. So you can really get some travel done if you have to. And then we pulled into a sweet town, and everything after that became quite calm. We had to motor a lot. We ended up at a beautiful town where we pulled into a marina near Delphi and got to see more ruins, which the boys were super thrilled about. Really excited by that.
So Delphi's where they had some of the earliest games. And
Right.
so, yeah.
There you
the
can
road
see the
track Yeah, that's right.
yeah, incredible in those mountains. Apparently they called it the center of the world back in Roman's days. Yeah,
Yes.
Greek days. And so we had this beautiful Ionian Sea now. This was what our provisioning looked like, always a shock. Just
Hold on. what is
always
that?
random. That's a
Yeah,
cow's
look,
head.
it's a
I don't
cow's
know.
head, right?
I
Yeah.
guess so.
Ugh, cow's head.
Bargain.
Yeah. You were on budget.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Oh
anchor
my
beers, really important to
I grew up on a farm
unwind.
in Kansas, I can't do that.
No,
So I don't wanna see it.
no. We passed under, we had another surprise. Surprise? Oh, I'll get to that. But anyway, we passed under a beautiful bridge.
So that connects sort of the mainland part of Greece to the Peloponnese.
So this was a sweet little town, an old fortified town, and we had heard about a really famous Greek restaurant there. And so up until this point, I hadn't been really in love with the Greek food, but we pulled in and we met these Australians. So this is Nick with his parents. Nick's from South Australia, and we kept meeting Nick across our journeys, which was amazing. So we started to really collect some friends along the way. But it was a sweet little town, and we anchored just outside, so you can see Hugo just there.
Yeah.
And then we could see it from the restaurant, which is great. But this was the lightest, fluffiest moussaka.
Oh.
No, is that right?
Yeah, it's like that, yeah.
No, not
Delicious.
moussaka.
Yeah, it was.
Was
It was
it?
famous for it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, moussaka was beautiful. Anyway, really good. And the boys ordered burgers. Really.
Oh, God.
Well, it's
Very-
ruins.
And burgers, yeah.
And we were looking out and just going, oh, look, is that Hugo moving? And the wind had picked up out there. And of course, we were dragging. So, yeah, we ended that. That was fun. And we had to go out and find a different anchorage. And our anchorage for the night had that view, which was beautiful.
Wow.
And the next day we had a surprise cave. But that's where we're going to leave it for now.
Great. This is
Wow.
fun.
There you go.
It's so fun and so interesting.
So after that, we did some really beautiful sort of the Côte d'Azur and all the up and down the Italian coast and over to Corsica, Cinque Terre, Capri, Monaco, like all those beautiful places. We ended up having Hugo in the Cannes boat show as part of our deal with Naughty Tech. And that was really fun because we had a whole week to explore that area. And then we
Pretty
went back.
boring.
Yes, yeah,
Yes,
yep.
that's right. Then we went back out to the Balearic Islands, which we loved, you know, which was Majorca and Ibiza and Menorca, and then out into Spain, the Costa del Sol, the Sunshine Coast of Spain, Gibraltar again, and then out to Morocco, Canary Islands, and across the Atlantic.
To
Yeah.
be continued.
To be
If you have it.
Fantastic.
If you'll have us back, because yeah, it's
Yes,
course.
please. We
No,
have
it's
to,
just-
listen, we don't know where the dog came from yet.
Yes.
So now I need to know that story.
yeah,
So,
it's a lot. It's a bit.
yeah, save it. Tonight. That's
What
really,
about
really
you?
good.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yay. Yeah, Tina, you're awesome.
Tina, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Do I do
No, go
anything?
ahead.
Do I?
No, just go ahead, do what you're doing.
I just turn it off.